What should you do if you go out to eat at a restaurant and the menu does not list any calories? This is actually an incredibly common question, and I get this all the time from clients and places like Reddit. I'm going to walk you through how you can make that decision for yourself. This will be in the context of somebody whose goal is losing weight in a calorie deficit while also not looking like a freak to their friends. I'm not going to suggest that you do dumb things like order a cheeseburger. No cheese, no mayo, no bun, no lettuce, no tomato, none of that. What you're going to learn by the end of the video is a good loose set of guidelines for how you can make smart choices in social settings that also help you stick to your goals. I have a menu from our restaurant that I found online, and it has no calorie values, so I'm going to walk you through this from my perspective as somebody who has had a massive weight loss transformation. I previously lost around 180 pounds in just over a year. I genuinely don't know the calorie counts of these items, so you're going to get a raw mindset of what you should be looking for and the context of what these foods play in your goals. The main killers that I typically see on menus are dishes with heavy fat content, heavy sugar content, and especially in sauces, and dishes where the quote-unquote vehicle is essential, like a tortilla in a quesadilla or a burger on a burger bun. So firstly, I'm going to cover up items which are obviously meant for multiple people. We do not need to be eating 2 dishes for dinner. As a quick side note, you're going to be hearing me say the same thing quite often, which is basically X thing is not good. And I want to be extremely clear, ED territory. But for the context of making calorie smart choices, these are just some things that will naturally be lower in calorie. The biggest example I can think of is choosing lean meats over fatty ones. For example, lamb, pork ribs, and ribeye steaks are almost always going to be higher calorie per gram than tuna, chicken breast, or sirloin steaks. So if I'm automatically disqualifying a dish because it has a higher fat item in it, you should make that decision for yourself whether or not it fits into your goals. The shrimp cocktail is perfect. Shrimp are nearly entirely protein, and cocktail sauce is usually fine in moderation. Clams and oysters are also fairly low in calorie and high protein. The crab and strawberries dish is a very weird combination, but crab meat, and specifically not crab cakes, which are a fried item, are also very lean. Salmon or tuna tartare is actually an appealing option, but the inclusion of guacamole and corn chips can make me think that it will quickly reach a higher calorie area. The Thai calamari, I'm not really sure what Thai implies here. I guess I'm not that cultured, but I would just skip that when you don't know what it is. The baked clam dish has a butter sauce with breadcrumbs, and that's not really ideal for me. The crab cake I would skip entirely. It's likely fried in horrific amounts of oil, and the fried shrimp I would skip for the same reason. The mussels Alfredo is likely swimming in a pool of creamy Alfredo sauce, which sounds interesting, but not for the calories. However, the mussels margarita is a bit interesting. It does have the inclusion of vermouth, which is worse because alcohol is higher in calorie than other nutrients, but tomato sauce and basil are very calorie light. The grilled octopus salad seems like a fantastic option, and vinaigrettes are usually not high in calorie. Onto the vegetarian side, I'm going to be skipping the first 3 because they're either dips or they're fried or covered in fatty sauces or just not meals. The burrata is a great option, but that's not really a meal. And veggie quesadilla is a great pick, but it's a bit strange that they list meat add-ons in a vegetarian section, but whatever. The focaccia I would skip. Chicken wings can be surprisingly fine for you. However, if you can only eat them with dips like blue cheese or ranch, I would make sure that you eat them in moderation. And in this case, I would get the buffalo wings over the teriyaki. I actually had no idea what polpette were before making this video, but according to Google, they are smaller sized meatballs. But due to the fact that they supposedly melt cheese over them at this restaurant, I would skip it. Asian glazed baby back ribs I would also skip. Chicken empanadas can be a good option, but remember what I said earlier about the vehicle? You can easily add many hundreds of calories to your meal unintentionally by consuming the fried doughs, which does not help you with being satiated as if it were something like a protein. As for the pasta, I would not order any of the cream-based or really heavy dishes. So this leaves us with the rigatoni pomodoro, linguine and clams, and the pappardelle bolognese. All of these are fine options, but I am assuming that the clam dish is inclusive of wine sauce, so be careful of that if that's what you're concerned about. Salads are honestly pretty hard to break your calorie budget with, so really most of these things are just good to go, but I would be wary of the dressings because that is where the majority of people mess up. In this case, maybe the only offender I can see here is the beet salad, but they would really have to pile on that honey goat cheese thing. So honestly, all of these are probably fine. If you wanted to add meat to any of these salads in their add-ons, in my order of preference specifically, I would do scallops, then shrimp, then grilled chicken, and then steak. And that's ranked in the order of their calorie to protein ratio. Seafood is actually great for dieting because most fish are lean, but what you have to watch out for are the surprises that are not lean. For example, the seafood risotto. If you don't know what a risotto is, it is a dish of rice cooked in broth. Now rice is actually perfectly fine and it's quite a healthy carb, but restaurant portions are typically over the top. So they might give you a portion size for maybe 2 or 3 people, so be careful of that one. I would be wary of any of the items that indicate that they're stuffed or served in a butter sauce because restaurants typically put a pool of that on your plate. And for seafood, in order of what I would pick would be the branzino, followed by the tuna florentina, followed by the risotto or the salmon. For side dishes, they are typically not as massive as your main, so it's up to you if you want to treat yourself. But personally, I would avoid fried things and bread. So out of this list, I would personally prefer the asparagus, sauteed veggies, mashed potatoes, or sauteed spinach. And sauteed in this context is cooked in butter or oil, so be careful of that. And for the steaks, I know it does sound awesome to go out to dinner and have a ribeye or filet mignon, but those are actually quite very high fat cuts. A good compromise might be to order what you want, but to eat a portion of it and save the rest for later while filling up on veggies. From this list, I would get the New York strip steak or the veal chop, followed by a filet mignon. The final part of this menu, the entrees. They don't specify, but I'm just assuming by default that when they say chicken cutlet, or really any of the chicken dishes here, that it will be breaded and or fried. For that reason, my first pick here is the chicken mushroom. Mushrooms are actually incredibly low calorie, and this dish has plenty of vegetables to fill up on. I would avoid the chicken parmigiana like the plague. It's likely fried, covered with cheese, and it's served over its own side dish of pasta. The pork Dijon, vitello, and chicken sorrentino are also very good picks. Now that covers the entire menu shown here, but let me break down my thought process for you so that you can see why I chose what I chose. When I'm analyzing the menu, I know that whoever wrote it is thinking about flavor and not calories, so they might choose to omit seemingly obvious things such as, if you're ordering a chicken breast, is it grilled, is it steamed, or is it fried in a pool of oil? You have to think about it in the context of the dish, not specifically what's written on the menu. My ideal meal, I would like to start with a lean protein, like chicken or seafood, and any of that paired with a lower calorie vegetable. Broccoli, asparagus, or vegetable medleys are great options that are typically served in most restaurants. If there is a dish which includes sauce, ideally it should be a lower calorie sauce. Tomato-based sauces or vinaigrettes are usually very low in calorie. I personally avoid butter or fat-based sauces like the plague because I know that the chef cooking the meal simply wants it to taste good and they don't care about how much they use. You should also be making conscious choices as to what you are actually eating. You could eat 500 calories worth of tortilla chips and still be completely empty satiation-wise. But if I gave you 500 calories worth of shrimp, you might not even finish half the plate before you told me you were full. There's an alternative line of thinking here that you can simply order whatever the hell you want and just eat a well-controlled portion. That absolutely works for some people, and it can be a great method for some. Personally, that never worked for me. I was more than 350 pounds, and if you told me to order whatever I wanted and to restrict the portion, I would laugh in your face. The real key to a calorie deficit is to make smart choices that don't really impact your quality of life here. All of the options that I said I would pick, I genuinely would enjoy eating. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything because they're lower calorie, and I don't feel like I'm starving myself on a diet. So this was actually a really great exercise, and truthfully, I don't know any of the calorie counts here. If this restaurant secretly released the numbers and I picked the worst options, which I doubt, I would be very surprised. But I just wanted to walk through an authentic example of how you can eat out socially without looking like a nuisance. I plan to do a lot more menu walkthroughs like these, so if you had any particular restaurants you wanted me to cover, I would really like it if you posted them in the comments. It doesn't have to be like mom and pop places either. I was thinking about doing Chick-fil-A next, so if you had any suggestions, I would really appreciate that. Thanks.